So hi everyone, this is Sister Elizabeth talking to you from her car. I'll explain that one in a minute. But you are listening to In the Company of Charity, the podcast of the Daughters of Charity. And I'm joined by my co-host, Sister Liz Sjoberg. How are you, sister?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. Surviving down here in Southern Texas.
Yeah, it's probably as hot as it is up here in Utica, New York. Whew. Summer hit, I'll tell you that. It's very hot.
And you know, we don't always want to make national news, but we have certainly made it here in our state and definitely in our area with the amount of cases we have down here. So say a prayer for us, because we got a lot of people affected, and even some of our staff members have been affected.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like, you know, New York has already been through this. So I definitely pray for you. I hope that the folks down there have learned some of the things that we learned up here the hard way, but you know, that some of that can be helpful to y'all getting through this, because it's bad. It's just bad news.
You never are more aware of how many things you touch when you walk into a place or your car, or I just keep thinking to myself, like, who's touched this railing?
Yeah, yeah. And even though they're saying now, like, it's not as much about that, but you also don't realize how close you are to people, like, all the time, you know, that when you're talking to somebody, how close you get to people, how much we were just out loving the world, and now trying to pull back just seems unnatural, you know. So I was saying in the beginning, I'm in my car, and we needed to do this intro today to get ready for our, you know, posting this episode, and I'm still, you know, all this time not able to go into a hospital with some of the folks that I work with. So we have a young woman who's pregnant, and we're like 4 weeks away from her due date, and so she's going every week now. Young Congolese woman, just, you know, great lady. This is her 4th child, and but first child in the United States, so she's very excited. She keeps saying, my first American citizen. You know, but I can't go in with her, so I have to just wait out in the parking lot. And of course, driving time, you know, by the time I got home, they'd be calling me to come back. So, you know, it's just a kind of time to wait in the parking lot. But I realize as I'm sitting out in this hospital parking lot, you know, there's still folks here who are sick. Still folks who are struggling alone. They're just starting now to allow visitors in to see people. So yeah, I think we've just still got a long way to go. So I definitely ask all our listeners to pray. Please, yeah, wherever you are, we're praying for you too. If you're in one of the hot spots, certainly be careful. Wear your mask, socially distance. Don't go out if you don't need to. Yeah, if you don't need to.
The other new experience we're going to have is when this episode is released, we'll be in the midst of our provincial assembly, which happens every 6 years, and it will be the inaugural all virtual provincial assembly. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. You know, we've had some practice sessions which have been really interesting. It's going to be 120, 130 sisters on through Zoom. And, you know, we have varying degrees of expertise in how to use Zoom. So that should be really interesting. But I think we're going to get through it. I think it's going to be fine. Certainly not going to give us the opportunities to dialogue the way we would want to. And I guess you don't realize how much we engage and are socially connected, and how much would happen at a meeting where you are with each other physically, you know, the banter at the lunch table, or you know, what happens in the hallways, coffee breaks, you know, when you get up and say, did you hear that? Or did you hear that the way I did? Or, you know, what do you want to say about this? Kind of, you know, just checking in with your friends who might not be at your conversation table, that kind of thing. We're not going to have any of those opportunities. So we're going to miss that, but we're going to manage. I think God's going to work in it. We're going to discover what the shared wisdom is. I think, you know, you can't stop God from sharing what God wants us to do. So I think we're going to be okay. And then later we'll have the bigger provincial meeting where we're going to really talk about the things that that we want to be able to do here. And certainly, the country is changing, and that's going to change the way we see how our ministries work and how they go. So it's exciting times. But anyone who's listening, we're going to be into the thick of it by the time you hear this. So please pray for us. Pray that God sends the Spirit and gives us the wisdom we need, and that we're able to listen through the airwaves.
Exactly. The Spirit is not bound. The Spirit is not bound.
It's not. It's not.
Well, we have a good episode here for everybody with a good friend of ours, Sister Jean Rhoads, vocation director for the Providence, and just some really awesome stories. Little vocation, little ministry, little how do you find God's providence working in your life? I think it's a great all-around interview.
Yeah, and I think we both have to say, Sister Jean has been influential in both of our vocations. She was my sister servant when I was a postulant. She was my first sister servant as like an official in the process with the Daughters of Charity. Yeah, so that was pretty cool down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So she mentioned some of the work that she did there at the clinic that she opened, and I had the privilege of doing some part-time work there when I was a postulant. So Jean was formative in my life, and I know that she was in yours as well. So I think, this is a good episode for us, and definitely a shout out to Sister Jean for all that she's taught us about being a daughter of charity and being a good servant to the poor.
Yep. So enjoy the episode. We're excited to present it to you. So welcome everybody to a fantastic interview. I'm so excited to have this guest with us, Sister Jean Rhoads. We have often been called the twins because I have dark hair and am rather tall, and she also has pretty dark hair and is tall, so people mistake us for each other often, unless we're actually standing next to each other and it's very clear.
Correct. No, it's a delight to be here. Truly, truly. Thank you.
I am glad that you're with us. Number one, because you are the current vocation director of the province of St. Louise, and we're truly grateful for all the work that you do. And number two, you and I have known each other since I was discerning my vocation, and it's been a real gift.
That seems like forever ago, doesn't it? When we first met, I mean, it was in New York. I was just delighted to meet this young woman who was really thinking about giving her life to the Lord as a daughter of charity. And I remember that the openness in your heart, and I also remember the enthusiasm in your eyes. It was just beautiful. So thank you for letting me be part of your journey.
You told me that I was like Marguerite Nassau, which I had no idea who that was at the time.
I know. She was the first country girl who followed the way, and who went to Monsieur Vincent, St. Vincent, and said, Father Vincent, I heard you needed some people to help serve the poor, and here I am. So you reminded me of her. Beautiful.
You're very kind.
Very
now
beautiful.
that I actually know who she is, I am very humbled by that compliment. So we are here. Give us just a little bit of your background and your story. I mean, the theme really is divine providence of our conversation today, but I just am interested to see how that kind of weaves into your experiences.
So thanks again for the opportunity. Looking back, I say to myself, how did all this happen? Because when I was first, thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, I thought I would be married and would be a high school math teacher and have a bunch of kids, which would be awesome. But anyway, when I was in high school, something kept nudging me to think about being a sister. And I was taught by the daughters, and I loved the joy. I loved their prayer life, the sense of community, living together in community, and the fact that they wouldn't be serving alone. So that all of those things appealed to me. So while I was dating somebody at the time, I said to him, his name was Eric, I just said, I just have to try this out. Um, I'm just not sure, but let me give it a try. And so I did, and I never looked back. And the community was very, very kind. They were going to let me be a high school math teacher just like I had wanted. But then I say Providence took hold because the university that I was attending dropped the program midway through. So I became an elementary school teacher. I know. But so I became an elementary school teacher instead. And all I can say is no matter what I was asked to do in our community, I have loved it. And as I start to share, you'll see none of it makes any sense. Um, so I was asked to teach. I did that for a few years, loved it. And then our community asked for volunteers to become a nurse. And I really wasn't intending to do that, but we were encouraged as being new and we hadn't yet made vows. We were guided to say, wouldn't it be good to show how available you are to community? So I wrote a letter along with, many others to say, yes, I was willing to become a nurse. And didn't they choose me? Oh my God, I thought I was going to just fall off the chair and I thought I would never survive. But anyway, so back to school I went. I went to Catholic University in Washington, D.C. And that first semester, I will never forget it. Talk about trust in God, because I had 4 sciences, 4 labs. And I mean, my whole life was being in a laboratory, and I hadn't had some of those sciences in high school, so it was pretty challenging. Anyway, met the greatest people there, and all of a sudden the nursing bug hit, and I just started to love that too. And yeah, being a nurse is like a gift that you have for your entire life. So I mean, I just have to say, the gift of taking care of people in their most vulnerable time in their lives, you just really have the opportunity to help relieve them of pain, but also share their faith, whatever that faith is. And so many times oh my gosh, I'd come home pretty tired from nursing, from the shift, but just totally delighted by that. So had a great time nursing.
Did you have any particularly strong, like, Spirit of God moments in your nursing experience?
But one time I was working in the critical care section of the ER, and this gentleman was one of my patients, and all of a sudden he flatlined, meaning he had a massive heart attack while we were taking care of him, and his heart stopped. So when that happens, you call code blue and everybody rushes to the bedside, and it's almost like a dance. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. So we were putting on the defibrillator pads and turned up the machine to give the appropriate amount of shock. And he jumps straight up out of the bed and says, "Ow, what did you do that for?" And not kidding, he's the only patient I ever had was literally dead one moment and alive the next. And taking care of him and his family was just really inspiring, because you literally saw that fine line between life and death. But probably the most memorable time I had was serving in Florida. And we had our hospital was close to the beach, the shoreline, and we had 30 drownings in one day in the ER.
Oh my
And
goodness.
these are people who had been so vibrant, children, parents, siblings, and were just getting caught in the rip currents. And so one by one, they would come into the ER, and we would not only take care of the patient if they were able to be revived, but to companion the family through those situations. Again, there's only one way to do that, and that's with faith, because it didn't make any sense. One little boy, his name was Jerry. He came, and his mother was caught in the riptide, and we were bringing him back to see his mother, who was lying on the bed, had died. And he said to us, "Has my mother crossed over yet?" And we said, "Jerry, I'm sure she has, but she's never going to forget you. And he said, oh, thanks. He said, that's all I needed to know. If she's okay, I'll be okay. It's, the faith of children. But I tell you, you don't come out of those situations the same. It helps you to realize every day there's much more to this life than we can see. Truly, it was a beautiful gift, a beautiful gift.
But I really love the concept of the thin space, between heaven and earth, and the things that are seen and unseen. And that's why I love and admire the people that work in those professions, especially emergency responders and nurses and doctors, surgeons, etc.
Absolutely.
Because you're living there, like you're there all the time. And how can you not have faith when you see these miracles happen every single day? And even people who are able to accept the death of a loved one, that in itself, I think, is a miracle.
That, and I think, when you serve in a faith-based ministry, Catholic ministry, a lot of the physicians and the nursing staff and the techs, that element that we're all instruments trying to take care of people is very tangible and real. So, I can't imagine living this life without faith. And it was just a reminder every day. The other gift of nursing is, think about it, whether you're serving in a hospital or helping a family member or just every day, on the street, wherever it is, you're always available to help another. I'm sure we've read stories or been around, been near car accidents where you just run and help somebody because you have that skill set. And once you have it, it doesn't really disappear. It's a lifelong gift. So praise the Lord for that one. Sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
From there, God moved you, called you, the community called you. What
so I'll be honest. I was working serving in a cancer center. Again, community asked me to do that, but I got this phone call from our provincial out of the blue, and she just said to me, Sister Jean, the community would like you to go to North Carolina and open a free health clinic for the poor. Now, the gift of that is, of course, you're going to serve the poor. That's why our community was founded. But I had a background by this time, education and nursing, and I had done some coursework in Masters of Health Administration. Hadn't yet finished it, but so I had that business sense. Within a month, we set up like a little steering committee of about 10 people and different areas of expertise like, doctors, pharmacy, a person who ran civic government, somebody who worked at one of the hospitals, a planner, somebody who was in marketing, kind of get a little team together. And one by one, everybody just came to because they knew I didn't know what I was doing. So God sent just the right people at the right time. And this is true. We opened a brand new clinic in 10 months that had free primary care, free lab, free pharmacy, free diagnostic testing, free dental work. And then we connected with the local hospitals to provide free MRIs, free CAT scans, and free surgeries. Unbelievable. And the physicians who served there were so excited because instead of being bogged down with paperwork and, applying to insurance companies for reimbursement, they could be a physician for the reason they always wanted to be, just to help people. So, again, another providential experience. There were two individuals who were homeless. They lived on the streets together, and we took care of them together. They were just, one had blood pressure problems, one had diabetes, whatever it was. And they wound up being so connected to us that we actually helped them prepare for their wedding. It was so dear, not kidding.
Aww.
So we were their family for their wedding. Yeah, it was very special, very special. Anyway, so that was beautiful. And we got a local, a business there who offered to do the flowers for them, and somebody else offered to do a nice little meal. So it was a very special thing. So the clinic became the family of those who were poor. And then another person, oh my gosh, Tony, I'll never forget Tony. Tony was living on the streets and he came to see us because of pain. And whenever somebody's coming for pain medicine, sometimes red flags go up like, oh, just looking for drugs. But there was something about Tony that made me realize it wasn't just for that. So we had a local doctor see him. Diagnostic testing was done for free for him. And then he got put into the hospital for surgery, full of cancer, full of cancer.
Oh, poor
But
guy.
this is what happened was so special is when the hospital called me and they said, Sister Jean, Tony's really, really sick. Can you come down here? And I said, well, I'm in the middle of the clinic. And they said, well, you realize you're his next of kin. He had
No.
put me down. He had put me down as his next of kin. So I got down there that evening and he was on the ventilator at that time, but he motioned to me that he wanted the water put on him. He wanted to be baptized. So we had the local parish pastor come down and about several people from the clinic came. So we witnessed his baptism and
Oh.
then he passed like 2 days later. It was very special. Yeah, you never know, right?
Now, if I remember correctly, thus far in the story, North Carolina is the furthest south at that point that you had been missioned, or am I wrong?
No, I was I was far away from family for quite a while. I was in Pensacola, Florida,
Okay.
for nursing, and then also as a mission leader. So yeah, but the world is small, especially in this day and age. So I always say, when the community asks us to do something, the same God that I love here is going to be the God that I'm going to love there, right? And while it's hard to leave a mission where you are, you love the people and you love what you're doing. If I did not say yes to this, then I wouldn't have said yes to the other. And think of all the things, the people you would have missed meeting and all the experiences of God you would have missed if you didn't say yes. So
It's a missionary
it
life, and I think for people who are,
is.
thinking about
Yeah.
living and what community life and all that good stuff, and that's a part of it, especially for
Yeah,
discerners. Are you thinking about,
that's right.
should I be in a monastery? Is it one of those things where, I really want to be a missionary internationally, which is another whole can of worms? And, at least for us, we do move around somewhat frequently, at least compared to, if you're going to have a family, usually you're going to be in one place generally for a while at least.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said all that, Sister Liz, because I know in our community we do have the opportunity to become a missionary in a foreign country or a country far away, and I have never felt that call. Probably because I don't like bugs and I don't like heat, those kind of things, basics. But I'll never forget in our constitutions, it calls all of us are called to have that missionary spirit. And so I remember a sister who had been serving on the foreign missions was living with us, and she said it to us very clearly. Don't you all realize we're all missionaries? And it was just a great reminder that just keeping ourselves available to where the needs of those who are poor are, that basically makes us a missionary. And so it's just it's a wonderful spirit. And you look backwards and you're like, how did it all happen? And yet there it is. And you can see God's hand in it just by looking backwards and realizing, God prepared me for this because of this, this, and this. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's really amazing. So, all good.
Now, since we're on the topic of internationality, you have been to our mother house in Paris several times. And I think, maybe if you could just say a word about that experience and what it's like to see the community on an international level.
Well, I know you've also had the similar experience. It's one of the greatest graces that we have in our community is to have a mother house in Paris. First of all, it's such a sacred setting where the Blessed Mother herself appeared to Saint Catherine Labouré and kind of helped to originate the miraculous medal, and just such a spirit of um, great peace there, and to have that availability, so many people, people from all walks of life who come to our Mother House Chapel. On the other hand, the other part of the experience is getting to meet sisters from around the world. I mean, we had we have the opportunity to attend sessions to deepen our own understanding of heritage in the Vincentian spirit. And so we get to walk in the footsteps of St. Vincent and St. Louise and other community saints. And you're doing that with sisters from around the world. So when I had the chance to make that session, there were 92 sisters from around the world with me. And it's just amazing that we all have that same spirit. We may not even be able to speak the same language, but we communicate with our sign language and our smiles and our, looking each other in the eye and drawing pictures. It's like Pictionary, just to help each other understand what we're trying to say outside of the session during the informal times. But yeah, it's totally amazing. And so as you hear of how people throughout our world are impacted through either natural disasters or war or being refugees, we can actually picture our sisters serving them because we've been with them at these different sessions. So it's one of the great graces in my life, I know, to experience that. Um, I've also had the opportunity to visit some developing countries where our sisters serve in Paraguay and Bolivia. And again, just to be with our sisters, you're just totally united to them in their service. And one of the other features of our constitution is if one sister is serving in wherever part of the world it is, we're all serving with her. So it's a great unifying grace to be an international community and to realize the daughters are able to touch so many lives throughout the world.
I think one of the things that's so typical Daughter of Charity, I mean, going back to St. Louise herself, who was incredibly organized, very much an administrator, like bookkeeper, record keeper, relationship builder, you name it. She was a real jack of all trades. And I think we owe a great debt to her because we know what's going on in the world with our sisters. We have such a tremendous network, and that communication, which began with Vincent and Louise and their letters back and forth to each other, has continued down to today of Skype and email and, letters that come out about what's going on throughout the world. And I think that's a tremendous gift.
You are right. And, compared to what I know about other communities, the repertoire that we have of Vincent's letters and Louise's letters and other sisters who are writing to other sisters, it's like volume upon volumes that we have, all translated for our own spiritual nourishment. So again, God has blessed us in so many ways. It's very humbling, isn't it? To know that we have all this. Yeah. I realize I need to grow a lot more every day because of what others have done for me. And they've modeled what it means to live as a daughter and to really give your whole heart and soul to the poor. So, yep, got to keep growing is the message there.
That's right. And I know now you're a vocation director, but prior, in the few years prior to that, you were at the service of the community in leadership. Mm-hmm. And that certainly is a different kind of service experience.
Yeah.
Much like St. Louise, who had to deal with a lot of the inner workings of the community.
Yeah, I mean, in living in and serving in our leadership role is just very unique, so that the poor or the places where we really provided our most direct service was with our sisters. So it's definitely a need. So in our time of leadership, we had the challenge of bringing provinces together. I mean, talk about a challenge, which was wonderful, wonderful. But the other grace is, I mean, you really get to know the sisters at a deeper level. So think about it. You know, here you are getting to know so many new sisters, and really they're so beautiful in sharing their hearts with you on what's going on in their own lives. So I found leadership a particularly humbling experience because you are at the service of the sisters. And in our constitutions, we were told by Vincent and Louise that the sisters are your first pour. So talk about what binds you together as sisters. And again, just like we were taught early on to find Jesus in the people we serve, find him in one another. That's where Jesus is, in one another. So, yep, leadership alone. I never thought I'd be there either.
One of my favorite quotes was a letter that St. Louise wrote to, I'm not sure who it was, but she said the sister servant, who is the local superior in the house, right? The sister servant has to be the beast of burden in the house and carrying all the load. And I thought to myself, you're really not advertising this whole leadership thing very, very strongly.
Positively.
It really is a tremendous service. I mean,
well, the other thing is what we learned, and one of the things we did before each of our, we call them provincial council meetings, we always read council minutes from back to the time of St. Louise and beyond. And what was always fascinating is the challenges that St. Louise faced and the early sisters faced were very similar to the challenges we faced. Like they'd say, well, sister so-and-so, you know, her family won't let her stay here, they always want to come take her and take her back home again. And, you know, they want to give her all these extra special gifts that not the other sisters don't have. And we have to tell the family not to do that, but we don't want to hurt the family, blah, blah, blah. My point is it's just so many similar experiences. Or the sisters were sent to such and such place to serve. And all of a sudden, the administrator there, a lay person, just said, well, he didn't want the sisters there anymore. So, oh, well. So they had to make a big shift in moving the sisters to a different ministry. And that happens today for whatever reason. Could be governmental, could be reimbursement issues, it could be, you know, related to faith-based. It could be just so many different reasons as to why the sisters or why an administrator may not want, you know, a particular group of people to help them. Human nature again and again and again, hopefully infused with grace. But anyway.
And you now get the opportunity to be with the most, I would say, vulnerable and new and wide-eyed people in the community, or potentially, and that is, you know, young people who are discerning vocation.
Yeah, so my first response is, shh, don't tell anybody how much I like this ministry. I do. It's really a wonderful, wonderful joy to have the ministry and the I don't know what the word is. I feel honored to companion others in their discernment. So, yeah, I just find this particular generation of young people is so inspiring. Their desire to deepen their spiritual life, their desire to hear God in their lives, their desire to really grow spiritually is beautiful. So yeah, it truly is an honor. It's a sacred time, and I find that part of companioning really a gift. I also have the chance to do a lot of different events with a lot more young people at the same time, like venues like the Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students, or Busy Persons retreats, heading down just a few days for Gulf Coast Sisters, like the nun runs, giving a retreat at Missouri State University soon for their Lenten retreat. So it's all very unique experiences. Speaking of jack of all trades, you just do it, right? You just give it your best and pray that God works through you is the best way I can say it.
I have to tell the people that I was extremely jealous when you texted me a picture of yourself with Father Mike Schmitz, who's one of my favorites, and you were there with him and I was not, and I had a little cry, but everything's fine.
Oh, I know. Those kind of events, you get to meet people like Bishop Barron is another one. Had a chance to meet him personally. It was wonderful. I mean, such a spiritual man. So yeah, Father Mike is awesome as well as Sister Bethany Madonna,
Mm-hmm.
um, Father Agostino.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of great people. Again, just joy-filled, wanting to live faith. We also had a chance to listen to For God and Country. Is that right?
For
That
God and
great.
country. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that music group was so amazing. Yeah, truly faith-filled and amazing. And I hadn't realized how much that particular music group, the brothers from Australia, who they really work hard for social justice issues against human trafficking to try to help refugees. So it really touched me in my spirit as a daughter of charity. I know, I feel so blessed all the time.
It's
I
awesome.
mean, it's true.
When you look back and you see all these little threads, what can you say about, okay, the providence of God, and if you're in the moment and just feeling like, what the heck is happening to me? Advice that you would give to people who are in that space who can't have the perspective quite yet of looking back.
Yeah. So, say a few things that helped me. I want to say just hang in there with it, stay with it, because when you stay in the midst of it, that's when the growth comes. And I've heard people say this, and I think it's true, is it's when we're struggling that we draw closer to God, because you're on your knees basically saying, God, help me through this. I don't understand what you're doing. However, if you can hang in there and really grow through it to the point where all of a sudden the peace will come and you'll start to see the fruits of your labors, or you'll start to realize, you know what, God must want this, and whether I see it or not right now, it's God's will. And truly, eventually looking backwards, it all started to make sense. And then when struggles hit later on, whether it was a ministry situation or a difficult administrative experience, it was like, you know what, God helped me back then, I'm sure God's not going to abandon me now. And same thing happens, all of a sudden you see and you feel that peace and growth that comes through it, but you got to hang in there is the best way I can say it. Just, yeah, it's all part of the journey. Kind of like the apostles in the midst of the boat being thrown about by the waves, and Jesus was right there with them the whole time, and they just forgot to trust. But once they trusted, then the wind calmed down and the waves stopped, and yeah, the peace came. It's like that. It's like that. You just got to believe that Jesus is in the boat with you at all times.
One of the things that has often helped me, at least very early on, is having met and had such impactful interactions with sisters like yourself who, really, opened your heart and offered your support. I mean, I think that makes a world of difference for the newbies who come in, who maybe feel discombobulated or frustrated or confused, and just to know that the sisters that we've met are out there and united together with each other. I mean, and to be a presence that it's not just we are there for other people, but we're trying to be an example. And I think that was such a gift to me early on, and I thank you for that, because you are one of those people for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I am so glad you're giving me this opportunity to highlight a friend in my life who was a mentor for me till the day she died. And today is her birthday. I kid you not. Sister Virginia. Sister Virginia was a mentor to me my whole life. And just like you said, when those waves got a little bit too rough, she would want, I could just call and say, you know what, this is going on, or I don't understand what to do about this, blah, 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 blah. And she was able just to be that voice of wisdom and grace and peace that just remind me, God's not going to let you down. You know what you're doing, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Then, yeah, so definitely mentors are really a gift from God. And yeah, it's like that same as the scripture quote, a sturdy friend is a great shelter. Something like that is a great treasure. Yeah. God gives us those sisters in community like that we're never alone. That's the beauty of it, right? That's why they call us each other sisters, right? Right, Sister Liz?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know we got to wrap up, but I wanted to offer you the opportunity if there's anything that you feel like we haven't touched on or that you want to say to the young ladies out there, to anyone who's listening, who's struggling, any final word?
Yeah. So I guess I'm thinking, there's in this day and age, there's never 100% certainty to try to make a decision. There's so many questions that can come about. And I think it's important sometimes just to give things a try and realize you're not going to be walking the journey alone, that there will be companion sisters with you to help you at each stage. The other thing is to try to be attentive to where you do see God in your life, because God is there if you just open your eyes. And sometimes I think we have to quiet ourselves down a little bit. So much to distract us. There's so much technology and social media. Sometimes we just have to turn all that off for a little bit and allow those God minutes to come and really realize, what is God saying to me? I was at liturgy this yesterday, but over the weekend, this priest was so good at getting us ready for the Lenten season. And his comment was, you know what? I don't think we should focus on giving up cake or candy or even, having a sabbatical of social media. He says, what we really need to do is wake up each day and say, God, what is it that you want me to do today? Period. And I think that, to me, again, going back to the providence of God, that's what it is. It's the providence of God happening minute by minute, today, not looking too far ahead, just today. How am I going to follow God's will? So if I had to encourage young people, I just say thank you for your wonderful, genuine desire to get to know the Lord, and trust in the Lord a little bit more. He's not going to let you down.
Well, it has been a grace and a gift to have you on the podcast. Finally, it's happening.
Thank you, Sister Liz. Back at you. It's really been a delight to talk with you too. Really, I mean that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
This has been In the Company of Charity podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.